Welcome to Transfixed, the channel that is quite safe from your pitiful little band. Tonight we're looking at the new Emperor Palpatine from the Star Wars Black Series. He comes in a box. It's bigger than the Memorial Guard box. At least in terms of depth. There's some text on the back of the box. And a handsome portrait. We'll see, I'm going to be comparing this guy to the old one and to all the other Palpatines I have. Palpatine's one of my favorite characters. Maybe my favorite in the Star Wars trilogy. And yeah, it looks like he's coming back, which I guess I'm happy about, but I don't know, man. These new movies are not my cup of tea. But anyway, this is an improvement, a definite step up. I had a hard time getting the original Emperor figure, and then once I did, he was not perfect. The robes are a bit stiff, and this part being plastic really limited the posability. He only comes with this one accessory. He had the old face that does have a wash. That does have, some decent paint on the head and all, but before they're doing the photo reel, so much better. This is basically the same figure, except for the robe. They just gave him a cloth lower robe so that he could fit in the throne. Now, I'm very happy to be getting a throne. Where should I start here? I guess I'll start with the figure. So as I said, it's basically the same figure. If you lift up the robes here, you've got the same legs under there with the matte black plastic. The new figure has shinier boots, which is nice. And he's got definitely more paint on him. The accessory of the cane is the same. There's no notable differences that I can see here. But the new Emperor comes with more accessories. It comes with these lightning shooting hands, which are a nice touch, I guess, if you want to have that pose. But for some reason, they've painted his hand color, the flesh tone, right into the lightning here. Which is kind of strange. I don't know why you'd have flesh colored lightning coming out there, but there they are. Those are all right. Now, I have not been able to get these hands to come out of the old Emperor to see if they fit. And I don't think you can swap the heads because this head it's not on a ball joint, whereas this one is. You can just pop it right off and change it to the other heads. The other one goes right up into the head. So let's talk about the paint. That's the most notable difference. Now, let's look at the face here. The old face and the new face. They both have the same sculpt. It's very good. The new one has more paint on it. Hair color is a bit different there, as you can see. And it's good. The eyes are really good. The paint is good. The highlights and dry brushing are good, except the strange thing is they've added, flesh tones here, but they've added gray. There's a gray dry brushing over the skin here. I don't know why gray is a skin tone, but he's old, but he's not gray. Here's the other heads. They look similar. I'm glad we finally have this sort of smiling face sculpt. And then he also has this one, which of course would go well with the lightning effects, where he's really giving it to old Luke Skywalker. And apparently the lightning is how he got this way. I never understood that in the prequel movies. I thought the Emperor looked this way because of using dark side magic all this time, and it slowly, he's an old guy, but it slowly took its toll on him physically. But apparently it happened instantaneously, as episode 3 is the canon to go by. We saw Luke take a whole bunch of Force lightning. We saw Vader take a bunch of lightning, and we saw him unmasked, and we don't know what he looked like exactly before, but he didn't look to be affected that much by it. But when Mace Windu reflected the Force lightning back, it instantly melted his skin for some reason. And apparently Mace Windu must be more powerful than Yoda, because Yoda absorbed Dooku's Force lightning into his lightsaber, whereas Mace Windu reflected it right back at Emperor Palpatine. So, anyway, not a fan of those movies. But so we can also see they got a little bit carried away here on the hands. It's the same sculpt, but with the extra paint. There's a lot of sort of terracotta color, like blotching here. And I don't know if that doesn't quite look right to me, but I guess it is better than just the pale skin.
Maybe I'm coming down with something.
Oh, I know what you've got. The L word. Yeah, leprosy.
So yeah, the paint is not perfect, but the robes are much better. The material doesn't feel very different; it's slightly different, but as you can see, like this makes these big holes. This is a bit more flexible, and with this one, I had to get the hood in this state by soaking it in water. It does have a little stitch in the sides here to try to keep the shape, but it's not really doing a great job. It doesn't stand very well either, but. And then this one here, they've got the same stitching on the robe. I think it's a little bit in a different place though. It looks like it's, yeah, a little bit of an extra stitch, and then it gives it this nice fold down here. So the cut is probably, I don't know, slightly different, but it looks a lot better, much better. Big improvement. I wasn't really hoping for much for this figure, but it is a lot better. He does have double jointed elbows. Sorry, I'm jumping around here. Just so excited about having Emperor, I don't know what to do. So yeah, same joints there, same joints there. Extra accessories and pieces. So that's him. Now, when you stand him up and put the cane in his hand, I find that I don't know what's going on here, but the cane, if you have his arm fully extended, does not touch the ground. So if you hunch him over a bit, you gotta hunch him over pretty far for him to hit the ground with that cane, which I don't think is right. Maybe the cane should have been longer, or his arms are too short. Actually, you know what? I think it's his arms are too short. Remember in art class they taught us that your hands should fall about halfway down your thighs when you're standing. And his arms seem to be too short. His arms should probably be down to here. So just slightly too short arms, it seems, is the problem. And oh my, I'm getting a lot of lint from the cape, or the robes, I should say, on here. But the nice thing is they made a nice throne, which is the right height, and he does sit in the throne, and he looks good sitting in the throne. Give me your cane. And that works very well. Very, very well. The throne itself, though, leaves a bit to be desired. It feels a bit on the cheap side. The base is correctly modeled. Everything's correctly modeled, and this plugs in here. But there's some flaws here. For example, I have this silver paint over here on the side. And I have some silver paint here that's not supposed to be there. And you can see the seam here is not even, it's not symmetrical. It's this separate piece here is tilted, and I can't get it to go into place properly. It's all hollow rubber. This part seems pretty accurate. This part is pretty good too, but it's on a bit of an angle. And it's a bit too low. It's not quite in place where it's supposed to be. That's just on my particular piece. So that bothers me a bit, and this seam bothers me a little bit. Got this little antenna here, this rubbery piece here. Most of this is all accurate. I'm going to compare it to the Hot Toys one, the only Hot Toys figure I have. So we'll compare those two. And I've also got an Iron Studios statue too. So maybe we'll get into that. You know, I was thinking maybe I'd take this throne apart and try to reline this, but I don't think it's worth it, because to crack this thing open, it's going to be, I'll probably damage it in the process. So I don't think I'm going to do that. And I think I'll just leave the paint where it is. Maybe I could remove it with some alcohol. I don't know. But it's a decent throne. I mean, if it's sitting on your shelf, you're not going to notice those things. So it is nice to have an emperor that can sit down or stand up or electrocute people. Oh, actually, before we get into the throne, I'm going to show you the one little modification in this video. One thing you can do to improve this is to cut the some of the fabric off the seams. I did this with the old figure I had. You know, when you join two pieces of fabric together, you kind of just have to put them together and then put the stitching in there, and then you get this extra fabric here. So I've cut it off at the ends. See how I've got it as close to the stitching as I can on the old figure here. Whereas if you go further up the sleeve, you can see that's how long it was before. I hope it's coming through with all the black, but it's about that much extra fabric, whereas I've cut that off here. So I'm going to do that with this figure as well. These are the sharpest scissors I have, just some cheap hairdressing scissors. These should work fine. So, like I said, if you just try to turn this inside out a bit, hopefully this is coming through on the camera here. If it's bright enough, there's the stitch that runs this way right there. So what you want to do is just get in there right at the stitch to get rid of all this extra. I think I'm going to put that right there. And just get it as close as I can to the stitch. And that should be enough. Getting colliding with his hand there. I don't want to cut off his fingers. He's evil, but I don't think cutting off his fingers is the right way to go. So yeah, I'll just cut off that much there. So now when he has his sleeve hanging down there, it looks a bit more natural. Still a bit of extra there, but see, I think that looks better on this side than it does on this side. It's got this extra, so I will go ahead and cut that off too. You can do the same on hoods if you find there's a seam in there. This one doesn't have a seam down the middle, so that's good. In here, you've got these, the same sort of thing. I wouldn't say it's a problem. It's just, you know, when you manufacture things, you can't get that kind of detail in a mass-produced toy and still sell it for this price. So if you want to, you can just go ahead and trim that as well. And I think that'll make it look a little bit better. So let's take a look at that throne. Now, here is the Iron Studios figure that I've been using as a stand-in all this time, without the base though, because he is a figure. Really nice detail in the fabric here, but this is a sculpture, of course, and he actually is looking very gray, leaning forward here in a nice pose. Now, this throne doesn't have any of that detail on the side here. It also has a flat. It's also flat across the front, where I believe this is correct to have that that shape, that sort of beak sticking forward. But this one doesn't have that. This is flat. This is $100 and some odd piece, though, so it should be accurate, but it is not. I'm not going to count the ridges in here. I don't think that's necessary. On this side, he does have a bit of detail, which is pretty similar, except it's gold buttons on gray. It doesn't have the red detail. The base is fairly similar. So yeah, it's pretty accurate. It's got a nice coloration to it too. The best thing about the Iron Studios one is this, the expression. It's not quite accurate. It looks a bit more like that hologram in the original Empire Strikes Back. Or I think it was a woman actress doing that. And he has Luke's lightsaber in his hand there. So, and this is rubber. The rest is all polystone, I think they call it. So this is good. I've been happy with this. Yeah, I wasn't using the standing up Emperor before. So just to compare the scale, it's a little bit bigger, but it kind of works. Now we'll bring in the Kotobuki, the small scale one. It's just a cheap one. So this has got the same sort of details on the side here. This one does have a panel over here, but it's on the inside. And there's no purple. This is all gray. This has the proper shape, though, and a little sticky outy bit. This Emperor just comes out. It's plastic, as you can see, and he has some assembly required. A bit too large. This is a... Okay, I forget the scales, so I'm going to put them on the screen now. Black Series, of course, is 1/12 scale, or for 6-inch figures. This is this scale, and this is this scale. So sorry for not having that ready ahead of time. I got to do these videos at night when I have the time. I don't always do the prep work that I probably should. So there is a size comparison of those, going from largest to smallest. So if you're doing a Black Series shelf and scale is important to you, you definitely do want to stick with the Black Series. This one I just got, not to fit in with the collection, just because I think it's a great sculpt, and I love the Emperor. This one I'm thinking of selling now that I've got them all together here. I don't think I need it anymore. I didn't think this would replace this one, but it is good enough. I'm happy with it. So, and you know, you do get the extra faces too, so he can have this sort of sneer if I want to put him in that pose. I might even be able to touch up the paint. I've got some flesh colored paint. I could just go over these dark red dry brushes here to fix that up. This one has the best skin tone of them all, I think. It does still have the flesh color, but it's got that sort of dirty, crusty look that he should have, and the yellow eyes and all that good stuff too. And lastly, we'll bring in one that's not going to fit in at all, but just as a comparison, we'll show the Hot Toys. I've used the wide-angle lens for this comparison shot. So, obviously, the Hot Toys is more accurate. Now, for the detailing on the throne, I imagine that this is going to be the most accurate. So let's use the Hot Toys as reference. It's very hard to get a movie still of that kind of detail. Let's just put that in there. So there's the Hot Toys compared to the Black Series. On that side, the top part seems to be correct and similar, which is great, very impressive. And then over on this side, we have the two control panels, so it's not exact, but it's pretty close. And actually, there's an inside and an outside piece. So I guess the Kotobukiya statue that has the inside piece was correct, but it was missing this piece. Probably because his arm, his robe covers it up anyway. So let me see if I can bring it in here. So you can see it has the inner piece, but not the outer piece. But you can see by the dust lines there that that's where he was sitting. So sorry for the elder abuse. And that's just sitting there. That's not part of it. So this is on both sides, actually, on the inner part. And the Black Series does have some controls, and in fact, they are painted. So is that accurate? I don't know. It's hard to tell from the film, but it's a bit of extra detail that even the Hot Toys doesn't have. So good job, Hasbro. As far as Palpy himself, well, we're going to use this one, aren't we? Pretty good. I'd say the Hot Toys is a bit more gray. I think he should be flesh toned. I don't think he should have gray skin, but this pallor, or whatever is accurate. And I do like that he has a pointing finger. I prefer that he has the right hand pointing, but at least he does have a pointing finger, so he can tell young Skywalker why it is he who is mistaken. And then there's this little Palpatine, which is really not in scale with anything. Of course, there's better fabric on here. It's got wires inside and it's textured nicely. But I gotta say, Hasbro did a good job with this one. So this is going to sit in my Black Series shelf. I am running out of battery. So let me clean up this display here and then I'll summarize my final thoughts. And here are some scale comparisons with Darth Vader, the SH Figuarts, and the 40th anniversary Hasbro Black Series one. So that is the second version of the Star Wars Black Series Emperor Palpatine. Should you get it? Yes, definitely. I think you should. If you collect 6-inch figures, it is definitely a good Emperor Palpatine figure. Even if you have the original version, I think this is a significant upgrade. It's worth getting, definitely for the throne, but even the figure itself, the face sculpt and the paint is much better. You do get the extra heads. So yeah, I think it's the best Emperor Palpatine at this scale. The Kotobukiya would be my second choice. It's a great little sculpture. It's just a little bit too big to fit in. The Iron Studios is nice, but it's, even though there's the same scale as the Kotobukiya, it's a bit smaller, so it does fit in, but it doesn't look quite as accurate. So yeah, definitely you should get it. It's not terribly expensive. I got mine from Amazon. I think it's an Amazon exclusive. So if you can grab it, grab it. So thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, subscribing, sharing, and all that good stuff. Good night.